I really enjoy diving deep and helping people detangle and distill in its purest form, like your truth. Because you can have a broad statement about yourself. So, like for the job seeker, I am passionate about sustainability and leaving this world better than I found it. Like, that's such a hierarchical passion statement. And yet, there are so many ways to talk about how that is true. So if you walk into an interview or you're networking and you're trying to broaden your community so that people can keep you in mind next time, it's so important that you keep it consistent and always drive back to those glittery, distilled, core, always rooted statements, and describe that and authentically tell stories in your background and connect with people on that level so that they will remember, oh, so-and-so is really passionate about sustainability, and maybe they wouldn't say this verbatim, wants to leave this world better than they found it, but that is a good internal compass point for a job seeker who's looking for something in climate change and sustainability and environmentalism to keep in mind, just to put it into the job seeker's point of view.
Yeah, no, I think that's really on point. And the key thing that I'm hearing there is like, we keep returning to these ideas in order to reinforce them for ourselves and for others, because a lot of times people need more than what we're saying, right? We think we're saying too much. We think we're rambling. We think we're all over the place, but people are pretty good at like filtering and like getting a sense of a person, but having the words there, having the stories. And I think the biggest thing, having examples, and you kind of touched on that a little bit. It's like, you can't just say it, you have to show it. And so often people say, oh, I'm great at collaborating. Oh, I'm a hard worker. Oh, I'm a really nice guy. It's like, the more you say you're a nice guy, the more we raise an eyebrow and say, are they really? Or are they just saying they are, right? It's better to tell a story that infers what you are or reinforces what you are than to just keep saying these kind of high level words that don't ever really latch on, right? The more someone says that they're empathetic, the more I go, can you give me an example of your empathy so that I'm not just hearing words that seem empty. And so what I'd love to dig into an actual example, because we have a lot of folks that might be listening who are either thinking of starting their own side hustle, freelance brand, little business, or maybe just got laid off and are being put in a position where it's their primary option and their best way moving forward. Maybe they've been thinking about it for a while. Could you walk us through maybe one of your favorite examples of someone that you helped kind of bring this story together and put it out in the world?
Yes. I'm just trying to think of who or what brand. I guess before I dive into an example, just to get the wheels greased. I don't know what expression I'm looking for.
Juices flowing.
Juices flowing. Yeah, exactly. I work with some brands who are just starting, or some people who are just taking a hard left and starting fresh. Your process to discovering who you are and professionally what you stand for and what opportunities you're looking for at the beginning, you are in that infancy. And what happens with infants? They grow really fast. They change their mind. New things are discovered every day. And so for people who are listening, who are trying to decide if they want to start their own business or side hustle, and have committed to doing it, have resilient patience with yourself, because I can't tell you where Curated Compass is at today, where I'm at today, was a process of finding the 1,000 things I don't like and I don't want to do, to discover those 4 to 6 things that I love. And I wish there was an easier way to do that. I don't know why. It's always like, no, yes, no. Like, do you find that to be similar in your growth?
It's just trial and error constantly. It's trial and error constantly. And even this weekend, it's a Tuesday. Even this week, I feel like all the days I'm just working every day. But I was doing something with Patreon and had to backtrack. So like, I made this big change, rebranded a bunch of stuff, and then got a lot of feedback that was not good. And I was like, oh no, I made a big mistake. And a lot of times, it's big for what I perceive it, because everything that you do always seems so much bigger, but to the outside, like probably no one noticed. And like, what I think is so funny about it is like, there's a bunch of different ways to respond to that. And sometimes we'll run away from it. Sometimes we'll just freeze. Sometimes we'll just delete the thing altogether. And this was one of those moments where I was like, this is an opportunity to bring people into the growth of this. And so what I did was I wrote a message that was just like, I made a mistake. I made this big brand change. It's not going well, and we need to go backwards. So I appreciate all your support, patrons, but you're going to notice a lot of changes over the next week as I refigure this out. And it is one of those things where when you're building stuff, especially if you're like a solo person or just getting, a small team together even, it's like you have all these different ideas just swirling around, and so much of it is in test mode that it's not even at the level of like mass visual or anything like that. And so these kind of steps in different directions, and then even back steps, can all be part of that journey, part of that story, which I think is always so scary for folks, but so interesting when you actually get into the freelancer entrepreneur mindset.
Right. And part of my story that led me to Curated Compass and my obsession over storytelling in general is it actually started with my parents. They were Christian TV producers. My dad produced a Christian version of American Idol.
I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, but I grew up on a set. Inspiration Sensation. I'm sure there are a few YouTube clips to prove it. That's what brought us to Illinois, actually. We were living in Texas before then. But I didn't even realize that the things that I was learning and picking up in that setting have led to where I'm at right now. And I chose PR because I had to pick a major, and my mom thought I'd be good at it. I did PR for what I felt like a very long time, and I had learned media relations, major events, celebrity endorsements, paid partnerships, still have those skills. But what those 6 years taught me is that I'm really sick of getting the message from the client or a branding agency and having to build PR campaigns around it, because I'm sitting with consumers, media, and it's landing flat. It has no sparkle, it has no depth. And I want to be in the front lines of telling or building the story so that people can better tell it across different channels. So when I shifted into, would I even be good at branding? Do I even know anything about it? Do I know how to tell a good story? I think all these people who have these urges to create or do something new have confidence that internally, like your story, whether you realize it or not, whether you have it articulated or not, comes from somewhere. And it is a natural stepping stone for you, right? So the best next thing to do is to find a way to connect that. Again, knowing it's really hard to do the work yourself, and being okay with massaging and tweaking it as you go. I hit publish on my website last week. I still have 4 rounds of feedback that I have not applied from people I really respect. And it feels unfinished to me, but I have to start. I have to be ready and know that it's always a work in progress. And that's okay. And that's a story unfolding, right?
It's that constant, if everything is always unfinished, if we really want to, take the broadest view about it, because as soon as you finish it, there's, a change in the market, a change in the technology, a change in the customer, a change in something that needs to be revisited. And this brings me to this, the big fear that I think most people who are considering freelance have, which is this idea of fake it till you make it. Like, this happens in the job search, this happens in freelancing. This comes up all the time, and it's widely debated. Some people are like, yeah, fake it till you make it is totally the way to go. Some people are like, believe it till you achieve it. Some people are just against the whole damn thing. What is your take on it? And, I'll just say, what's your take on it?
Well, and what I say is fake it till you become it. That's my little in the back of my head, because when I realized PR was not my passion, which newsflash to everyone listening, Curated Compass was originally a business to help mommy bloggers better pitch themselves to brands. That is the initial why behind my brand. Because I was working in PR and I was like, wow, all these mommy bloggers are asking for all this money to be sponsored. I can help them tell a better story and better represent themselves because they have some good content. Anyway, all that to be said, you know, as I revived Curated Compass, and I still had this like pseudo, and I still to this day do have a freelancer hat while also being an owner / founder of this agency. Cause I got to make the bills. Sometimes I get like a really sweet deal to be a copywriter for a brand, and I enjoy the brand and the people. It's a great check. I switched over to copywriting knowing that at my PR agency before, I hated any writing assignment. I hated the press releases. I hated writing the pitches. I hated writing all the marketing materials for the press kit. And yet I saw this opportunity for copywriters digitally to have a ton of work. And here I am, like toying around with brand strategy and brand messaging and brand storytelling. What's the best way to get there and be really good at it? Start copywriting. So I had to build a portfolio out of nothing. I had written nothing. And that was a lot of self-doubt and like, you're lying. You are faking it. You can't change your LinkedIn headline. Like, you're lying to people. You're lying to yourself. I mean, these were like the internal narratives that were happening at the time. And yet I looked at it from like a friend's perspective toward myself. And I was like, you know what? You have written press releases. You have written some blog posts. Put those out there. See what comes back to you. And most often people invested in me. They liked how I talked about myself. They liked my passion for wanting to tell a good story, for wanting to develop my writing skills through different mediums and channels. And that's what they invested in. So, long way to answer your question. If there's a reason you're showing up to a career change or a new side hustle or a new rebrand, there's something authentic about that. If you're truly willing to make the leap to try it, something brought you there that's going to resonate with people, that will help you land your first client or your first gig. Trust that, and then be really honest about yourself and be really happy with who you are. Because I really feel like, especially this year, people are investing in people. I just got a new gig writing ghostwritten content on Substack for this founder. And I've never written on Substack before, and I'm supposed to come up with this growth strategy. So I'm reading all these articles, but I was very upfront, like I haven't built a growth strategy for Substack before. It's a whole new playground. I want to learn, and that was enough for her. So
I like that, especially that piece on, I'm ready to learn. If I said today, all of a sudden I'm a doctor, that's fake it. That like, there's nothing in my history about any knowledge of health or any, like if I said I'm a dentist and tried to pull your tooth, that's faking it. But if you are doing stuff that orbits what you're trying to do next, you're not faking it. You're just defining it. And I think that's a really big difference, right? There's a huge difference between, being the guy from the movie Aviator who just said that he's a pilot and sits on the planes, and someone who's writing stuff but doesn't have the confidence to call themselves a writer. There's a big difference between those two things. And so I appreciate you kind of going into the details of your journey, because it is sort of, sometimes it takes our confidence and our insecurities time to catch up with our actions.